Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to look at how you can bounce back from a bad marathon. Now, everybody at some stage will have a bad marathon, even the best in the world. We are no different, we're amateurs, so it's definitely going to happen to us at some stage. So first thing first, however long you would normally celebrate for or enjoy that kind of elation off of a good marathon, don't let your bad marathon drag you on for any longer than that. So don't dwell on something bad any longer than you would celebrate something good. Have you kind of sulk about it, say that in the nicest possible way. You're going to feel a bit crap for a couple of days, so move on from it after that. Learn from the experience, and that's what we're going to cover mostly in today. But I just want to kind of get this across to you first. So don't beat yourself up, but it happens. Move on from it as soon as you feel ready to, most importantly. So first off is identifying kind of three key areas that tend to be the reason for that bad experience. Tend to be the training, the racing itself, or the expectations. And we're going to delve into each area of this a little bit more, but those are the kind of three key elements that are going to make an impact on your race day if it hasn't gone quite as you'd hope. So first off, expectations. Now this can be set out right from the word go. So if you've set up expectations of running a certain time and realistically you weren't ever going to be able to put that training that was needed for that sort of time into practice, then setting up a different expectation in future is a really kind of good place to start, certainly. Now you can look at things like the different race calculator timers to see how you might kind of set expectations differently in the future, or it could be even down to course research. So picking plenty of flatter marathon, if actually you're in very good shape and you're not a million miles off, but you've set it up on a really hard course. So, for instance, in the spring, we've got Brighton. It's quite a notoriously tough one. In the autumn, people are going to say New York Marathon, which is very, very hilly, which, can be a different thing entirely. And you might be perfectly capable on a kind of normal marathon course, but on a hilly one like that, it's going to maybe take it a little bit more and give you a couple extra minutes that you have to really cut off, which, comes into the expectations. The other side of it as well, though, is expectations from other people sometimes, and people telling you can or can't do certain things. Depends how you handle that and whether you want to kind of prove people wrong. I've been in that camp before, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So next up, we're looking at the training. Now we've got your expectations, you've got your targets. Now, has your training really matched up to that? Now that could be influenced by numerous factors: illnesses, holidays, nutrition around training. If you've done the long runs, how you've got on with nutrition, not just generally, but within your training runs themselves. Have you practiced the fueling, practiced the hydration, all that kind of stuff as well. Also, have you been specific enough in your training? Have you avoided racing too often? Because this is a really common problem I see for lots of people, that they are too distracted by other things, and that can sometimes be the real big thing that derails their marathon experience and means they don't quite get the kind of result or the expectation isn't being met. Now, finally, looking at racing. Now, this is again where a lot of people go wrong, and people have kind of seen tons of times friends, but also clients, unfortunately, who have come into racing in very, very good shape, but the race day tactics haven't quite gone to plan, where they've actually not really stuck to that plan. It does happen, and again, I've done it as myself. I felt really good on the day and gone for it a little bit more and kind of run with it, and hasn't then been as easy as hoped it would be, or been a bit slower by the end of it, having faded. These are things we have to do every now and again and have a go, but the racing tactics can be really, really good and can also be really, really poor, whether you're in good shape or not. So think about your pacing strategy. Having a really sensible thing in mind, and again, this links to your expectations. So if your expectation is accurate, stick with a pacing plan that's going to make sense for that. Don't try and run 10, 15 seconds a mile inside it. Start off with to catch up with a friend or to bank some time. It does not work like that in the marathon for the most part. Very, very rarely does that ever pay off. So get a safe time, bank the energy for later on. The other things you might look at on race day are if you haven't paid attention to the weather. So if it's going to be particularly hot and you need to really adjust your targets and times, bring it back in a little bit more. If the wind is going to be really, really high, particularly on a flat course or on a coastal marathon, and again, you need to then bring the expectations in, but it does again come into how you're then racing that. So course research, weather conditions, and often how you pace it as well. These are really common things. So you may have done nothing wrong in training. You may have set really good expectations, but if you're racing with too much of a quick pace, or you're not sticking strictly to your strategy, that's where it can often go wrong as well. So look at all of these different things, be honest with yourself, and go, what would I do differently another time? Now, it can be quite useful actually to do this before your marathon. I know that might sound counterintuitive because you don't want to think about the things that haven't gone well, but it can help you set better expectations again right in those last few weeks beforehand. And it's also something to look forward to your next marathon. So, yes, review this after the actual race day, but have a bit of an idea of where you would go next. Personally, I find that quite empowering rather than look at it as a negative. I take it as a, hey, how do we come forward from here? And I'm in good shape right now. Actually, I can build upon that. If that doesn't work for you mentally, if you don't think it's going to work for you, don't do that. But certainly after a rough marathon, if it hasn't gone to plan, then you need to go through these things. Look at what you would do differently. How do you build upon it? If you don't know where to go with that one, or if you can identify the key strategies but don't know how to implement those, or don't trust yourself to actually implement those things in kind of reality, get yourself a coach, work with somebody who can give you some guidance. Yes, again, biased because I'm a coach, but honestly, someone who's qualified, who knows what they're talking about, and isn't almost too attached to you. Friends can be great sometimes, but equally can easily give you some get out clauses, which you don't really need if you've not had the experience you want. You need someone to give you a really good reality check, politely and respectfully, but really kind of looking at things you may not have even thought of as well, because there will be also little kind of blind spots we have. We have these things we don't see ourselves. So getting someone to go through that with you is a really good exercise. So if you're looking for any tips on that, let me know. But there are loads of ways to bounce back from bad marathon. Most importantly, you will bounce back. This is a short-term experience of negative feelings. You'll come back from the stronger. You can come back from the stronger, but it's in your hands. See you soon.